Welcome to the Lunch and Learn for Google Forms. What we're going to look at today are my 10 must-haves for Google Forms. So the document that I sent to you in the chat has those 10, and what you're looking at on the screen here also has the 10. There's 2 pages. Anything that's underlined and bolded goes to a link that has a little bit more details on the topics that I'm going to cover in these 20 minutes today. So let's go ahead and get started. My first must-have for Google Forms are going to be templates for your forms. A lot of people don't utilize these or realize that they're there, so I definitely want to highlight it. To start a new form, I'm going to go ahead and go to Google. And then to access any of the Google apps, we can go to the 3x3 dots, the waffle we call it, and then we can go to forms that way. That's one way to access it. And at the top, this is where you can just start a blank form. You can look at your recent forms that you've worked with, and here is where the template gallery is. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. There's a few different options. There's education, so we have the blank quiz, but we also have exit ticket, assessment, worksheet, course evaluation. There's some personal ones, but they can be used at school too if you but beyond just a test in your class, if you need someone to vote on something, or if you need a t-shirt sign up or to schedule something, you can use these different types here. There's also some work ones that can be very helpful. And even if it doesn't fit what you are trying to do with it, you can edit all of them. So I'm going to choose the exit ticket to start with to take a look at. So here it comes with an image at the top, and we'll talk about themes in a little bit. It has a name, email, and you can edit it straight from here. But it at least gives you that starting point. Now, before we start editing and looking at question types, there is one more thing I want to show you. Whenever you create a new form, it automatically lands in your Google Drive. Okay. So here's my exit ticket. So we're going to talk about where we can move our our forms. One way is you can drag it into any folder that you want in your drive. You can also drag it to a different drive over here on the left side. If you are in the form, there's a folder button in the top left corner by the title. When you click that, it tells you where your exit ticket is located. Right now it's located in my drive. If I click this arrow, it allows me to go straight there. It gives some suggested locations. This is a newer feature whenever moving documents. So if I wanted to move it to my Google folder that I have in my drive, I can just click move and I can move it there. Now, some other options are I can go into my Google folder and see if there's another folder I want to put there. There's also all locations. So if I wanted to share this form with someone on my team, I could click share drives and I could put it in one of those drives. Just know when you do that, if I were to try to move it, it's going to tell you that the ownership's going to change and that the people in that share drive are going to have editing access. So it gives you that warning if you move it into a shared drive. So now if I go to my drive, I don't see my exit ticket anymore because I moved it into my Google folder. And then now I can see that I moved it there. So that's just one thing for organization, or if you're trying to share with your team, that you'll want to know how to do. Now we're going to go back to our form and we're going to look at the different question types. So it's real simple to add a question. On the right side here, there's a plus sign to add a question. Some are already sitting here and you can actually edit these. You can edit the type of question it is, but I'm going to go ahead and add a new one. And it's defaulting here to multiple choice, but we have several different options. We have short answer, paragraph, that's where they can type an answer in. There's also check boxes where you can check more than one thing off. There's a drop down, which is like the form that I sent out for the Lunch and Learns, where you got to see all the different dates there. You can do a file upload. There's different scales and grids that you can also choose from. So you can pick the numbers and the labels there, the rows and columns. And there's also a date and time. I had put time in mine, so y'all could put your lunchtime in for me. You can also do dates. So there's lots of different options for questions here. Within your questions, you can add images, which always has a good impact. And for assessments in class, that's going to be pretty important for some of the questions to add an image. And if you're doing like a t-shirt order, a yearbook order, something like that, you could put a picture of like the cover or the design for the shirt. You can duplicate your questions, you can delete your questions. And beyond just questions, you can also add in other items, such as import questions from another forum. So if you click import questions, you can look at your other forums and bring some of those in. You can also add in a title and description. So it's like adding a section. You can add images, you can add videos, and you can also add separate sections. So it kind of deals with the pacing of the form. So you can make it as simple or as complex as you want to, but this is where you would add all those things in right here. It's just sitting there in the form, so it's pretty easy to see. Now, once you get your questions set up, you're going to also have your responses, which is the second item here in the middle, responses. Now, I just made this exit ticket, so I don't have any responses. So I'm going to show you an example of one I do have some responses from. I had done an order request template earlier and gotten some responses. And when you click on responses, you can see who responded, and it can show you different views. This one is the summary view. It shows the pie chart, a bar graph, depending on the type of question that it is, it'll show you different visuals. You can also look at it by question. So if you wanted to see everyone's response for that question, that's an option. You can also look at an individual. If you just want to look at one person and see what they responded with, all their responses, you can do that also. But the most important thing for your responses, in my opinion, is that you can view in Sheets. Now, if you're looking at it for the first time, it's going to say link to Sheets because you're linking it for the first time. But once you click on it, it's going to ask, do you want to make a new spreadsheet or choose a location or an existing spreadsheet? So this is what the responses look like. It's not formatted, real special or anything, but it gives you the timestamp, it gives you all the responses, and you can format it as much as you want to. So this is kind of plainly how it looks, and I'll show you the responses that I've gotten from the Lunch and Learn. I've been working with that spreadsheet and those responses, so I've changed the font, I've changed the columns, I've added some more columns with some check marks. But this is the good thing. Anytime I get a new response, it goes to the bottom of the list. So that even if you change the formatting, it'll do that. So that's the best thing about it. Also, anytime you hit view in Sheets, it's not going to create a new one. It's going to take you straight back to the one you've already been working with. So it's really good for organization. If you have students' grades, you can sort them. You can sort by response. You can sort by t-shirt size or whatever you need to. For me, it was scheduling and the time, so that's what I was looking for. So you can adjust it. And if you want to learn more about Sheets, I'm offering a lunch and learn on Sheets as well. So make sure you sign up for that. But this is just a really key thing in organization with your responses. Okay, now we're going to look at the settings at the top here. We're going to talk about a few key things. One of them being if you want to make it a quiz. So if you're a teacher and you want to do an assessment, an assignment, you definitely want to make it a quiz because it's going to count the points, it's going to give a grade. And two things I want to point out is release grades. You can choose that they can release the grade immediately after the submission or later after a manual review if there's something you need to look at first. So you want to choose between these two options if you're making it a quiz. The other thing you want to look at is the respondent settings and decide if you want them to be able to see which ones they got incorrect or correct, and also the point values. So you can turn these three off and on. So those are just things that you'll want to look at if you make it a quiz. Regardless if you're making it a quiz or not, the other part that you want to look at is your responses. And I want to point out two parts in particular. One is allowing response editing, if you want that on or off. If you don't mind if they edit their response, you can turn it on. If it's a test for students, you may or may not want to do that. And also the limit to one response. For my Google form that I sent out, I did not limit it to one response because I wanted y'all to sign up for more than one session if you wanted to. But if they're taking a test, you want them to just submit one time. But it may be okay with you if they edit a response, like if they click too fast and you wanted them to edit it, that's okay. But those are just two things that you definitely want to to look at on there. Okay, we're halfway done. We got our first 5 must-haves. Now I'm going to the back of the handout. And now we're going to look at theme next. So I have a picture of the, it's like an art palette, this icon up here in the top right. We're going to go ahead and click on that. And this is a way for you to customize your form to make it a little bit more unique. And so you can change the font and font sizes of the header, of the questions, and of the text. So you have 3 different things. They can all be the same, they can all be different, and you can also do different text sizes. Now the header and the questions are going to be bigger, the text is going to be smaller, so it automatically has that formatting built in with the max sizes. So you can choose what works best for you in your form. For a header, if there's already an image here, like when we picked one of the templates that already had an image, you can just click on that and you can take it off completely, or you can choose a new image. When I click choose image, I have a few options. They have some themes that you can look at and you can pick from different ones. So if I wanted to choose these cute little chicks hatching, I could do that, and it has it up there. And I don't know if you noticed, but the color palette changed to go with that. So I can choose the accent colors, the shades that go with it, so it's cohesive. I'm going to pick another one just to show that you can upload your own photos from your computer or from your drive. You can also pick, you can change this as many times as you want to, but I just want to show you that the colors change to go with it. So it's just a really good way to customize it and have a bit more impact. So there's your theme. So I changed that one up a little bit. Now, before you send out or share your form, one thing that I highly recommend is previewing your form. Right next to the theme, customize theme button is an eyeball, and that's to preview. When you click that, you see what the form looks like from the recipient's point of view, from your students or from your coworkers, whoever you're sending it to. And it actually lets you fill out the form. It lets you type in, it lets you select a response. So that way you can see what the responses look like, and you can see if you need to fix anything in there. Now, when you're ready, you can also clear it if you want to, so you can kind of start fresh. And when you're ready to edit it again, say you find a mistake that you want to fix, there's a pencil in the bottom right corner. You click that, and now you're back in edit mode. So you want to make sure that that preview looks exactly how you want it before you send it out. Now, before you send out your form and you see this big send button, before we do that, you need to see, is there anyone who I want to collaborate with on my form? And this is one of the parts that's really important that people get mixed up sometimes on forms. If you want someone to edit it with you, you're going to click the 3 dots and you're going to go to add collaborators. Now, this screen looks similar to a screen in Sheets and Slides and Docs where you're able to share the document, but here you're just adding editors. So if I wanted to add my coworker Lorinda as an editor, I would find her name, put it in there, but just know she would be able to edit the form. So if that's okay and you want her to edit it, no problem. One cool thing is that you are able to add an expiration date. And that's kind of a new feature. So if I just wanted to collaborate and get feedback from my teammates until, December 29th or December 27th, and I can select a time, then they have until that time to do that. You don't have to have an expiration date. But if you're like, I don't want anyone to edit it, then you do not want to change the screen. You want to keep that general access to restricted, because if you put anyone with the link, that means anyone that gets that link is an editor. And that's probably not what you want. So we recommend keep it restricted. If there's a few people that you want to work on it with, you can put it here. Now, if you put it in a shared drive, they may have those accesses. So just keep that in mind. So that's for editing, for collaborating. When you're ready to send it, you're going to hit the send button. And this is where you're going to send it to the people you want to answer it. There's a few options here. The first option is email. If you want to type in their email addresses, you can, but I sent out my Google form to all of my high school teachers and to the CNI staff, and people forwarded forwarded it on from there. So I did not type hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of email addresses here. Instead, I used the link. And you can actually shorten this link to share with people. So I would recommend, that's my top recommendation, is to shorten the link and to copy the link. And that's what I have a screenshot of on the must-haves page. Now, I will say this, if you're going to email, I would recommend including the form in the email. So if you're just sending it to a handful of people, you could totally do that. But I would include the form in the email so it's right there and they can just start working on it. You can also embed it if you are doing a website or a blog. You can get the in HTML here. You can also share it to Facebook or Twitter. The last must-have that I want to talk about is making a copy of your form. So say I have this order request form, I have my 4 responses from this year, but come next year, I want to use the same form, but I want new responses. If you click the 3 dots, you can make a copy. And so what this does is it's a copy of my order form and I can choose which folder I want to have it in. Okay, I can choose. I'll just keep it in my same folder and it makes me a copy. It's the exact same form, but now there's no responses. So for this year, I can change that question on that test or the due date for this assignment or the t-shirt sizes or the t-shirt design. I can just customize it to fit for this year or this 9 weeks or what have you. And then you want to make your changes after you make your copy. If you make your copy first, if you make your changes first, it's going to change your original document. You probably don't want to do that. You want to make the copy and then you can make your changes, you can rename it, and then you can reuse it. This one also went to my Google folder, so whenever I go in that folder, I have it sitting in here. I have my order form and I also have my copy of my order form there. Okay. Okay, those are the 10 must-haves that I have for Google Forms. So if you plan on using Google Forms, these are the things you want to make sure that you utilize in there. At the very end of the document, and I am going to share the link one more time. I also added in the Google Skills Shop link. So if you're interested in Google Workspace, whether it be Forms or something else, there are different courses that you're able to take in here and get a certificate. So I wanted to include that link if you wanted to look at anything closer. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call or an email and we can look at it together. Thank you so much for joining today.